Hi friends, my name is Angela and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to share with you, we're going to have a bookish catch up. I'm going to share with you some of my current reads at the moment, and I'm also going to share with you my current notebook system, which is something I discussed a few videos ago that was on my mind and on my heart, and we'll get into that anyway. It's just going to be a little bit of a chat, chin wag, yarn. We'll see how we go. First of all, the books that I am reading. I am reading Emma by Jane Austen, still going with Emma, and I'm enjoying it. I'm actually listening to Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley as well, and that's quite good listening to that while reading this, because it gives you a lot of context as to what was going on, not just in Jane Austen's world, but in England at that time, and why she chose to do certain things in here that she did differently in Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, which were written a lot earlier than this. So this is it's still going on. I'm also reading Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and I haven't read this before. I am not sure if I've even seen the movie before. The images of like the people with button eyes is something I have seen. But anyway, I'm currently reading this just as a bit of an October read. I think it's ideal for coming into the spooky season, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I really am. I also have Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion on the go. Part of that is because I wanted to read her essay in here on keeping a notebook. And rather than just jumping straight to that, I am starting from the beginning. And I do like Joan Didion's writing. I read The Year of Magical Thinking it was this year. I read it this year, and I like her writing. I like how it kind of made me think and feel. So this is something I've wanted to get to, but most definitely because of these essays on keeping a notebook. And something I just started is A Poisoner's Tale by Catherine Kemp. This is a new-ish release. 2024 it first came out. Rome, 1656. In Rome's shadowy back streets lies an apothecary's shop, a place for women to take their heartbreaks and troubles. Herbs for childbirth, tarot readings to tell their fortunes, an undetectable poison that can kill in 4 drops. Alongside her circle of female poisoners, Julia Tofana dispenses her deadly potion to free their downtrodden women of the city from their abusive husbands, a path she's determined to follow after a harrowing childhood. But even in a time of plague, it does not go unnoticed when the men begin to fall like flies. With the Holy Office of the Inquisition on her tail, Julia is in more danger than ever. And I've only just really started reading the first few chapters, but it's quite rich in the prose. It's written in a way that I'm enjoying at the moment. I'm hoping it will be one of those moments of historical fiction that is like the gold standard of historical fiction. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. Another great little read for October. Let's get into my notebook system. So firstly, I shared recently that I'm trying to almost analogue my life. There are a number of things that I do that involve technology, and I think I preferred the way I did them without technology. So I'm trying to kind of de-technology my life in some ways. Not in every way. I'm not about to go, live on a remote farm with completely off the grid, but there are ways that I want to try and live a more purposeful way. And in particular, I'm kind of fed up with the algorithm deciding what I see and what I do and what I think even. That is a much longer discussion for another time. Today, we're just going to talk about the notebooks and why I've kind of brought them on and how I'm using them. When I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, these videos really helped when I was watching other people's examples of how they use their notebooks. So hopefully it's interesting to someone. A little bit of a backstory is that I've always had notebooks. You know how you just have notebooks and you write a little bit in it here and there, and then you just have a blank, almost a fully blank notebook. I've always kind of done that. I really wanted to hone it in and not really start from, not really do something completely new, but really refine how I'm using notebooks and how I'm note taking. And something very interesting about this decision is that when I bought one of these notebooks, I spent 2 weeks carrying it from room to room to room with me. Every time I sat down, I was like, I'm going to write something. What am I going to write? And I was just paralyzed with not knowing how to do it. I didn't know what to write. I was really had this moment of being paralyzed by, I don't know if it was fear or just uncertainty. And perhaps that was one of the most interesting aspects of this decision, is that feeling that I had in that moment, which really made me realize that this is something that is important. I had to really pull back and decide why I was doing this. Why did I want to bring those notes I was taking digitally and put them into an analog format of a notebook? And I really told myself that I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to revert back to something that I know how to do. I really do love tactile things, and digital notes just don't give me the happiness that I like when I'm writing down something that I want to remember or to do. But also physical note taking, I feel I retain a lot better. It's something that I remember deeper than when I just write something down digitally. Another thing was that personally, I love to be able to look back on my thoughts and to remember, to learn, and to hopefully look back and see how I was intentional with my time and my money and all that. I find it really difficult to have those moments of perspective or respective where I look back on what I've done when I'm doing digital notes, because I've got notes everywhere. They're in Google Keep, they're in the Notes app, they're on email, they're in Notion. They're just all over the place. And that makes it difficult to really know where to look for that piece of information that I took down a note on. And there are things that I want to know, like what was that moisturizer I was using a couple of years ago that in hindsight, I think that might have been the better one for me. What was that recipe of quick pickles that really worked that I just Googled and found on Pinterest? What is the list of authors that I really want to prioritize reading? So rather than having these things kind of scattered everywhere, I wanted to kind of bring them all together in a form that I had to be present and write down onto a physical piece of paper. Let's get into my method now. I didn't want to be too complicated with too many notebooks, even though I started to go, I should have this notebook for this and that and try and segment my life. This is what I'm currently doing. The first thing was that I wanted something I could physically carry with me everywhere. And I went with this little pocket folio that I got from Studio Milligram, which is a company in Melbourne. They are very similar to the Paper Republic folios, I think. The back does have a little flap. There's a couple of plastic sleeves that you can keep notes or receipts, that kind of thing in. It can hold up to 3 notebooks in here, but I was very deliberate in resisting putting a third notebook in here. I only have the 2 because I didn't want to create another notebook that I felt I had to write in. The first notebook is for my daily to-dos. I'm using this as my to-do list every day, and it is working. It is working so far. My daily to-dos, so I've got down like the things that I need to get done and lots of ticks happening, which is great. And that's what I'm kind of using it for. I think it will also be a place where I can keep like maybe quick shopping lists, that kind of thing. And then my second notebook is essentially my notes app in analog form. So everything that I used to put in my notes app, which would be just snippets of information, I'm putting in here, and I'm actually transcribing it from my notes app. All the junk that's in there, I'm transcribing the things that are really important that I want to keep. Like there's my perfect jam jar matcha recipe. Poor little Luna is going through a bit of a weight reduction at the moment, and so I've got her log here, what her starting weight was and what I'm currently feeding her at that weight, and then like weighing her in, and don't tell her. I've also got like a list of all the authors that I want to read that is just a growing list. A third notebook that I put in here might be things about the house, like at the moment I'm kind of looking for some new furniture items, and they have to fit within certain dimensions, maybe a chest of drawers or a lounge. And so I'm thinking that the third notebook could be that kind of stuff. So when I am out looking at things, I can refer back to that list and see, well, the lounge I need is 2.3 meters long, and that kind of thing. So it might be like a little bit of a things that I need to buy. I can just reference that because this will go everywhere with me. I also want to keep this on me because the notes app section can kind of be a little bit of a brain dump. But if I have it with me, I can refer to it as I go through my daily to-dos and run errands, and I'm really enjoying using that. The second folio I have is an A5 size. So this one is like a B7 size, and this one is A5, and you can see the size difference. And it's from the same company, from Studio Milligram. So this folio has 3 notebooks in it. The one at the back is kind of my brain dump. It has everything in here from my notes on notebooks and the things that I liked when I was watching some YouTube videos. I made some notes of the actual measurements that I needed. So when I was looking for notebooks, I would get the right measurement. If I feel like I'm just a bit overwhelmed, I used to just open up a blank page on my computer and just type down everything I was thinking, all the things that I needed to get done, and just brain dump it out. That can kind of turn into a little bit of a list for you to go through, but mainly it's just getting it out of your mind and onto paper or onto a digital document was really helpful. So a brain dump is something else that gets done. Every so often I'll hear a song that I really want to learn on guitar or piano, so I'll make a note of it here. I like to hold off on buying certain things, and I would really like to receive them as a gift. So I'm putting them here as like a little bit of a wish list. It's becoming a little bit of a YouTube dump, the things that I'm thinking that I would really like to get done on YouTube. I mean, this is like the starting of this particular video of my notebook system. And so that's working really well. So that's like a brain dump section, which is in the third notebook. In the middle notebook is my reading journal, which is where I am creating a log of all the books that I am reading. So every time I finish a book, I'll write it down and I'll put down the stars or triangles because I couldn't draw stars properly. And I'll give it a rating. It's definitely something I'd like to refine a little bit better. In the past, when I've been reading a book, I would use Storygraph to make notes. They've got a reading journal on there, which is really good. But so there's another virtual space where I have my notes. So what I'm doing now is as I read a book, I'll keep this nearby and I'll make notes in here as I think of things. Maybe I've underlined something that I'll come back to later. So this is my reading journal, reading logbook, I guess. And then the first notebook, which is this beautiful notebook I got when I was at I think it was the Louvre. And I've just held on to this for such a long time and it was the perfect size. So I've got Marie Antoinette in the front there. And this is kind of like my intentions, monthly goals, to-dos on a monthly basis. I use this small portfolio on a daily basis. But this is where I'll put down the big things that are on my mind, the things that I want to focus on more that month. So I've got my my September recap in here, the things that I accomplished, I learned, playlist, the songs that I was listening to, the things that I was watching and reading. And then I've got my intentions for October, which has my goals, some key to-dos, things that I'm looking forward to, and maybe things that I want to bring into my life, like maybe something I want to learn, something I want to buy, that kind of thing. I'm kind of liking it. And I've also got like a meal plan in here so that when I was writing out what I wanted to figure out for the week of meals, I just wrote out a little bit of a list because I do that while I'm making the shopping list typically, but then I forget. And so I kind of like having this available. So it's really for those larger things that are within the month. And I love the idea that at the end of this book's life, I'll be able to look back and see the things that I accomplished, the things that I wanted to accomplish. And I kind of like that. So this one doesn't necessarily go anywhere with me. I think it will just stay at home, but yeah, I like it. And I try and keep a specific pen with each book because the last thing I want is to be stuck without a pen. So that's those two books. They're both from Studio Milligram. The next notebook that I have is actually my journal or diary. I think I want to start calling it a diary again because that's what it is. It's a moment for me to formulate my thoughts on the day. Maybe I have some things I need to get off my chest and I can only write it to my dear diary, or it's just a log of the things that happened that day. And it's from a company, I think it's called Il Papiro. It's a company based in Melbourne, and they have these products that are made in Florence, I think, in Italy. And it's really lovely, really tactile. I'm enjoying that one. I'm really hoping to get better at the journaling as well. I would really like it to be a daily practice at the end of each day to be able to think about what I did and to be able to look back. It's been really useful for me so far to look back on certain days, and it gives you a little bit of clarity because your thoughts can become tainted over time. You may have gone through something. So for example, when my dad passed, I was writing in my diary daily. And it wasn't a lot of information. A lot of it was just how I was feeling and maybe something that happened that day that really stood out to me. And as I looked back on it this year around the time it was about the year anniversary of my dad passing. And it was really interesting to see the things that were important to me at that point compared to what I kind of feel like I remember now. I think that is really interesting. So I like that legacy, that looking back that it gives. The next thing I have is my little commonplace book. This is from Starsmead Bookbinding. I do love this little book. It's got little commonplace written on the side, but it is very tiny. It's a little bit bigger than this, but I feel it's too small, but it is such a beautiful little book that I'm going through it. It's also unlined, so I had to create a little template so I can put lines behind it. Again, this is something that I love to keep this information, whether it is a quote, whether it's an extract from a book that I was reading. There are certain things that I want to remember, and I think it's a really great example of you can visually see what was important to you at that moment. I just kind of write down things as they came to me, but the problem is in the last year or so, I would make a note, or like say I would take a photo of a book page, or I would pin on Pinterest something that I saw online, and then I would never go back to it. It would be like I was creating a commonplace book in Pinterest or on my phone. So I'm trying to be better at that, and what I'm trying to do is on a weekly basis is sit down with this and my phone or Pinterest and just go through the things that I saved and then see what I want to put in. And something that I read in a book, it's actually a commonplace book, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was talking about the practice of commonplacing. And it is a really easy thing for you just to see someone else's quote and add that into your book. And what I try and do is make sure that they are an excerpt from something larger that I've come across, rather than just taking that low-hanging fruit of someone else having done that work for me. I think that's really important that you do that. You don't just take all the pretty things that you see someone else has done the work for. Like this one here from Cooked by Michael Pollan. Nose to the grindstone as a saying. A scrupulous miller leans in frequently to smell his grindstone for signs at flour beginning to overheat. So the saying does not signify hard work as much as attentiveness. Little things like that. And what I have done is I've got an index at the front, but I kind of want to change that to color coding in some way, because the index, it's just a bit difficult to keep up with. I have maybe I was too minute with the topics. So anyway, my commonplace book is another one that I'm really enjoying. And this is one that I brought in last year. And this is actually a gardening journal kind of thing. This is from a company called Bespoke Letterpress. And they are in, I want to say Melbourne. It could be Queensland. They do beautiful, beautiful stationery. They do planners, notebooks, cards, gift wrapping. This one is one for just gardens, and I have not been as meticulous as I would have liked, and it's just a really beautiful little moment to look back on, especially when you're gardening. Gardening is something that it's very easy to forget certain things, like that. I remember last year was a really hard year for certain pests that were coming about, and so to be able to write that in here and remember how I combated it rather than try and rely on my memory is really, really key. Things that I want to plan, like when I need to plant certain seeds or buy seedlings, I really love it. I think it's lovely. And so I would like to spend more time writing down in this and making a log of my garden. I got it in May, and then we went into winter, and not a lot happens in winter with gardening. So that is my journaling system. That is my notebook system. Those are the things that I'm keeping, and it's probably, it looks like a lot, but there are times when I'm thinking I could do more. I could do like a kitchen notes. I could do a health one. There's so many different things, but this is good for now, and I'm kind of enjoying it. So I hope this has been interesting for you. And as a reader, I think it's really something that I kind of just lean towards naturally. You know, I love the tactile feeling of paper and writing and words, and so it kind of fits in with that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was interesting to you. It's a little bit left of field. It's something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and I thought I'd share it with you. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week of reading ahead, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.